Oh hey there, how you doing? Total War Pharaoh Dev Diary #1 has come out and we are going to analyze the crap out of it. So, the first point that they make is this one.
In Total War
Alright.
Pharaoh, just like in any other Total War, we have settlements.
Yeah.
But in our game, we introduce a new feature called outposts. We have
Okay.
7 different types of outposts which the player can construct. They vary from military outposts to economic outposts and are designed to help the player in different situations. For
Alright, so here we go. So you have certain places in a region where you can build outposts. And this reminds me of Rome 1 and Medieval 2. Outposts isn't a new thing. In Rome 1 and Medieval 2, you could grab your general to a certain location on the map and just build a fort or build an outpost, a tower. You could not build anything else there, and they would not really have any stat changes, but they served a practical purpose. Watchtowers would reveal a part of the map, and forts would allow you to station units and control choke points. That was extremely interesting. Right here, we have the forts, so you can place units on the forts, and then we have a ton of buildings that have some stat boosting ability, right? So boosting your food income and whatnot. The point is, this is not a new feature. This is pretty much the same, but very, very expanded, so you can build a lot more things, and you can only build them on set locations on the map. Is this good? Is this bad? Well, it's coming back, right? This is a feature that's coming back in a different shape, and I am kind of interested on it. I just wish they would allow us to build it anywhere. I know why they did this, right? Because so that you don't build a ton of resource boosting buildings, right? So, you have 2 locations max or 3 for each region. I think that yeah, they definitely should have allowed forts to be built anywhere and the other ones just on set locations. All right, let's keep going. Now we are going to the second point, which is 228. So here we go. All right, let's see. What is this
For
about?
Total War Pharaoh, we are reworking sieges by adding multiple victory points. What that means is essentially that every single victory point in the city matters.
I think that already happens, like in Rome 2, where if you capture more than 1 victory point, then they will start losing points. I don't really like that system, so let's see what they have here.
You do not gain points as it was before by capturing a single victory point. You have to capture multiple to start winning. If you're on the attacking side and you manage to capture one of the victory points, that means that you will get debuffs that are specific for this victory point. The more you capture of the settlement, let's say you capture a second victory point, then the defender starts losing morale because they're losing their city. And if you capture all 3 of the victory points, you have essentially captured the whole city, meaning that the defenders' morale starts plummeting because they have lost their home.
Okay, I think I've heard enough. So here's the deal. This victory point system, I don't know if you noticed, but let's go back here a little while. You have these little things when you capture a certain victory point, so these represents the 3 victory points. They have, I think it's some bonuses and debuffs, like bonuses for the attacker, debuffs for the defender when you capture them. So this was kind of the same thing in Shogun 2 multiplayer, that there were some points on the map that you would capture to get some boosts. The difference here is that when you capture them, you give a morale debuff to the enemy player, so to the defender. And that is kind of interesting. Okay, I don't think it makes sense for all units. And this morale thing, I think it was present in 3 Kingdoms, or was it in Warhammer? I don't know, something like that. And I don't dislike it. I gotta say, I don't dislike this. I think it's a good way of making this without silly points or anything like that. But it doesn't really make much sense to me that, oh no, a point has been captured. Oh, I don't want to fight anymore. You know what I'm saying? So my city is getting destroyed. Okay, I might be afraid, I might leave, but the city is not destroyed. We can see that the city is intact yet. So I'm not too sure about this. I think there could be civilians going around, and as you kill civilians, as you burn buildings, then you should start getting some morale debuffs. I don't know if this is the best system to do this. And I would like something else, like, so elite units or more experienced units, they could have exactly the opposite effect. It's like they're capturing my city, they're killing everybody, they go into this bloodlust rage and they get a lot of attack stats. Maybe that would be a fun thing so that not all units react the same way, or maybe it's kind of random. Some units run away, some units want to fight even more. I think there's a lot of room to improve here, because in a real battle, I really think that the morale effect would be much different from what they're saying here. We capture X number of points and that's it. I think it should be tied to destruction, to killing civilians, and blah blah blah. So you know what? This is not bad. I think this is better than what it is in Rome 1 in Rome 2, for example, because that's the game that I know the best. But we will see. So let me go on the next point, which is going to be just 319, and this is going to be settlement destruction, if I'm not mistaken. So
another siege equipment that we're adding is wall sapping, which basically means with enough time to prepare, you can destroy one of the walls before starting.
So I think this is one of the things that I actually like. So sapping in Rome 1 was quite unrealistic. And yes, sapping was in Total War already. In Rome 1, you could make sapping stations as a siege engine. So when you go into a siege or into an assault, and then you could send people into the sapping stations so that they could sap the towers and parts of the walls. I mean, that was kind of fun, but the problem is that sapping in real life actually happened over the course of maybe a week, maybe a few days, so it isn't really realistic, and I kind of like how they did it here. It's more grounded, it's more realistic, so yeah, it's not as cool, but it is more realistic, so I'll take it. Let's go. Settlement destruction, I think.
The battle. Another thing that we're adding is settlement destruction, which means you can burn down a settlement. The more you burn down a settlement, the more penalties the defender takes. But
oh my god, those fire arrows coming over, attacking units, that's kind of ridiculous. I mean, if you ever are going to shoot an arrow like that, you shoot at buildings, don't shoot at units. Because, I mean, there's an whole issue with archers in this game, okay? There's a whole issue with archers on this game. Like, they are shooting to the sky, and you are essentially losing all of the kinetic energy from the bow, and then you just make it up with gravity. And because the arrows are not a very heavy thing, you know, they're kind of heavy. They can be pretty heavy if they are thick, but they will lose most of their kinetic energy going up, or all of it, and then they come down. And they're just not as effective when they come down, okay? And it's very easy to block, you know, just put a shield on your head, and yeah, they will, but hopefully they will not hit your hand. I just don't think that this is reasonable if you're using normal arrows. If you're using fire arrows, okay, you're shooting fire at the guys, but I don't think this would be very effective anyway. They should be shooting at the buildings if they're if they have fire arrows. Fire arrows is a whole other thing that it was not very real. It's like nobody used fire arrows on the battlefield unless you had tar on the ground to burn your enemy, but you wouldn't really use fire arrows against an army. That just doesn't make sense. But anyway, settlement destruction makes a comeback, and I like it. I think this is good. I think everybody can agree that settlement destruction is good. Who hasn't played Attila just to destroy some settlements? I mean, I have. So maybe I'm just a psycho, but yeah, I definitely have. All right, so the next point is 342. Let's check it out. Okay.
Total War Pharaoh starts with some of the leaders already in place. For the Hittites, this is Suppiluliuma II, who you can play as. And for the Egyptians, this is of course Merneptah. For all other factions, you will first have to demonstrate your worthiness. This is done by accumulating first enough legitimacy, and then by challenging the Pharaoh or the Great King himself in a bloody civil war.
All right, let's just start going with this. I think this system is already better than Rome 2. And I like Three Kingdoms as well. All right, I think it's better than Rome 2, but they are not happening inside a faction. They are just happening inside a culture group. So every faction that belongs to Egypt will be choosing sides when you declare yourself the Pharaoh, and it depends on your legitimacy as well. So that is kind of interesting, okay? The idea is then to defeat your opposition by using legitimacy, and there are different ways to get legitimacy, so there are different ways to win the civil war, which is yay. It's much better than in Rome 2, where the only way to defeat or to win the civil war is to kill the civil war faction that just shows up. That was something that I didn't really like. I mean, yeah, some characters would turn over to the other side, but I don't know. I just don't feel that Rome 2 did justice to this. I really don't. It's so simple. You cannot even just defeat a civil war army and then sue for a reunification, or you kill the leader and then the other guys, some of them will turn to you again. There's none of that. So I don't know. I am kind of curious to see how this one works.
Where all factions will have to choose between
what
key
else do
resource
they
that
say?
will allow you to start and win
Okay,
a
so you
civil
have
war.
crowns
It is
as
a
a pharaoh, you
sort
can
of
use it to get
representation of
legitimacy.
how the people measured the words in a people,
Alright.
conquering lands of settlements. To
Yeah,
build,
certain
you can
settlements
also
give you
accumulate
legitimacy.
by
The Hittite king actually gains legitimacy in a different way, because the Hittites were a different culture. They valued different things. So I think that is actually really interesting, that, you know, if you go for the Hittites, you will be doing a certain set of actions to gain legitimacy. If you go for the Egyptians, you're going to do another set of actions to become the pharaoh, which I think it's quite interesting indeed. They are really making sure that things are different here, and yeah, I like it, because any faction can go for any one of them. So I like it. Yeah.
you earn legitimacy for Hittites. However, there's a downside.
Right, they're talking about the battles. Like, the Hittites gain legitimacy by fighting and winning battles, and if they lose battles, then they lose legitimacy. So you need to be careful about that when you're the Hittite king, because if you lose a lot of battles, there might be a civil war coming. So yeah, you definitely need to watch out for that. I think it's an interesting system overall. Okay, so let's go now to the next one. Wait, it's not 19, it's 29 here. And this one is going to be about
Each one of
the
their
characters.
competences. Each character
The
has
competences.
3 competences. These are presence, fortitude, and ardor. And all of these reflect a different aspect of what it is to be a Bronze Age general or a politician. Presence.
Okay, so maybe I could a little bit too late, but here's the thing. Ooh, this guy kind of looks cool, kind of looks very fantasy-like. I'm not gonna lie, it looks like a Warhammer character, doesn't it? Okay. Anyway, furthermore, you know, the competences, I feel, should not be decided by the player. I really don't think that you should be deciding the competences of a character, because you can just win attacking battles. Like, you can actually not win battles, gain experience from losing a battle, and just keep increasing the competence of that guy. Which, you know, yeah, you gain competence from failure as well, but you should not be selecting the competence of the character. Well, as the character fights, as the character does things in battle, they should gain competences on that particular thing, not the player choosing. That's some RPG bullshit. I'm gonna have to do this. That's some RPG bullshit that these guys are introducing into the game ever since the Warhammers, and this is something that I don't really like, right? It should be more like Rome 1, Medieval 2, where as you do certain things on the campaign and on the battle, you're gonna gain the competence for that thing that you're doing. That makes sense to me, right? They should just change that, okay? And look, even Warhammer as this thing that as you attack factions, you get better at attacking. As you defend, you get better at defending. And I think that is really cool. I think they should probably do something like that. Anyway, there's now also effects for the competences, and that he's going to explain that. I think it's right here.
As you level these up, you gain gameplay effects. Presence increases the offensive capabilities of your armies, fortitude increases the defensive capabilities of your armies, and ardor increases the speed of movement.
Okay, so by leveling up your competences, all you're going to be doing is giving your army certain boosts, giving your character certain stat boosts. And I think this is the main fault of new Total War games, man. It's that everything is an excuse for a stat boost. And that should not be the case. As you play the game, as your characters increase in their skill, they should unlock new gameplay options for you to play with. That is how you make memorable characters, is your characters gain certain mechanics, for example. And the ones I wrote on my post was, well, maybe you are unlocking night battles. For example, in Total War Rome Remastered, when you get a character to level 4 commands, they will have night battles enabled. They learned how to do that. Well, everybody can, everybody knows that you can fight at night, but they gained the ability to organize the army to fight at night. Maybe a couple more levels and you gain the ability to set the forest ablaze before starting the battle. Maybe another army is encamped and you gain the ability to attack the camp and surround the camp before the battle. Maybe attack the camp at night while having them surrounded. So all of these kinds of things and all of these tactical options that you might have before a battle, and as the character grows, they will have more competences and more options to them to fight the battles, or maybe on a settlement to get new policies that were otherwise locked because you didn't have a certain character to use that policy. I think this makes sense, instead of just having stat boosts everywhere, because everything's a stat boost, and that is what really bothers me about these new Total War titles, that everything is a stat boost. The goal of the game is to stack stat boosts to your units to make them invincible, and I think this is really the big silliness of historical Total Wars right now. In fantasy, okay, sure, fantasy Total War, I just want to get there. It's not realistic, it's not for realism. I just want to get a ridiculously OP unit, and I made ridiculously OP units in Rome Total War, in Rome 2, actually. I have a modding tutorial to do that, and it is fun, but I'd rather have that in Total War Warhammer, not in a historical title like this. So yeah, let's move on. This is a long rant already. So let's go to the last point, and that should be right there. They're now talking about titles. Right. Titles. Actually, we were not done with that. Let's go and see the
titles. Are these special names that you can assign to your character. For example, if you want to assign the title Master of Charioteers to...
Yeah, so for example, Master of Charioteers. By the way, let me check what was the boost on that. Melee defense +8, recruitment rank +2. This is the Shield of the Magi. Okay, so this is something different. This is not the Master of Chariots. So I'm expecting that if he's a Master of Chariots will be cheaper, or they will have some more experience when they are recruited, which I have no problem with that. But then I also wish that if he is the Master of Charioteers, maybe there's something special about this character with chariots. Maybe he can have a special unit of chariots. Maybe, well, I don't know. I think some of these actually give you access to some special units. I'm not too sure about that. And of course, they are linked to the competences where the titles are locked behind some competence levels, which I think that makes sense. That is interesting. Your character must be competent to earn these titles. I just think that, remember in Rome 1 and Medieval 2, when you would conquer a lot of settlements, you would get the Conquer. If you had the Mad traits, you'd get the Mad and whatnot. And Medieval actually has expanded on this. Medieval 2 did. But now we have this, and so you select the title. And in a way, I kind of understand, okay, yeah, you're going to give the player the control over the competence of a character, over the titles of a character. I really just think that this is not the right way to go. I wish it was, automatic. Like, okay, this guy has a lot of chariots in battle, and he won maybe 5 battles with a lot of chariots on it. So he is now the Master of Chariots, for example, and he would gain certain titles. Then if you have a lot of chariots and you lose chariots, you have a chance to lose the title of Master of Chariots. Or you lose the battle, you have a chance to, that kind of thing, okay? I think this is an interesting system, and I kind of like that they're doing these things. But on the other hand, I kind of wish they would have implemented them in a different way. I'm not saying that the game is not going to be fun, it's not going to be a good game. I'm just saying that as far as a historical title goes, I just wish they would stray away from the stat stacking and go into a more mechanic approach where competences and titles and all that, they would unlock more gameplay, right? So that's what I think.
For example, if you want to assign the title Master of Charioteers to one of
Loved by the people, happiness, aura
your characters,
size,
you will need to have a certain amount of ardor
merciless in his strides, ability cooldown, movement on land, movement at sea. You see, this is just stat boosts, man.
in order for this character to take the title for themselves. You can
Whoa, what was that? What did that do? I want to see that. All right.
to one of your characters. You will need to have a certain amount of ardor in order for this character to take the title for themselves.
Go on. Okay, improve fortitude, replenishment. Stat boost. I mean, come on, man.
You can assign the titles to an unlimited amount of characters. Each faction has a bespoke variety of titles that they can
that was cool. That was a cool
use.
cinematic.
Competences are also dependent on the
Okay,
character
but I
background.
think
It's a special trait for your character.
But I think we can just go into the last point that I want to make about this, and then we go for the summary. So let's go.
In Total War Pharaoh, we are adding an equipment type of ancillary. These are your weapons, your armor, shields, and mounts. In most cases, this is the Bronze Age, so the mount is a chariot. But as you equip different types of these ancillaries, you will get a different unit as a bodyguard unit for your character. If you begin with having a sword in your inventory, if you equip the sword, you will get a unit of swordsman. If you switch that sword with a spear, you will get a unit of spearmen.
Yep, I like this. Okay. Some of you guys might be thinking, oh, this kind of sucks. This is no, I like this. So I wouldn't mind that characters, even in medieval, I wouldn't mind that characters were like this. And if you had a blacksmith in your city, you could craft certain weapons and shields and armors to add to your characters. And I think that would be cool, because then you could choose what kind of unit your generals are, and you're not just locked to that cavalry unit. So I really like this. I think this is a really cool thing. And I'm pretty sure that some of the things that are added into Total War Pharaoh are going to be in Medieval 3. That is a whole discussion that we're going to have in another video. But I think that this is a really cool feature. And that's it, guys. That's essentially it. That is what we got for Dev Diary 1. Now, I commented on a lot of features that these guys are talking about, and I can clearly see that they actually have put a bit of effort into making the game different from Troy. I know that the interface still looks a bit like Troy, and I know that a lot of you guys are saying that this is a Troy reskin. I can see it. I definitely can. It definitely felt like Troy. But as I see these dev diaries and this gameplay on the campaign, I can see that it plays a lot differently. And that is also for a different video that I'm going to talk about that. So that is a good thing. My problem with the game is that it is being built as a stat stacker. So everything that you do in the game gives you stat boosts, right? On the characters, if you pick a court position, if you become the pharaoh, if you have a title, when you level up your character, it's always stat boosts. And there is actually nothing that increases the amount of available options that you have. So I wouldn't mind that the game would be pretty closed off in the beginning, and then as you leveled up, as you research technology, as you leveled up your cities, more options would open up as the game went along. And I think that is what you should do. Because my main issue with Total War is that the early game is usually kind of fun because you are exploring, you are fighting your initial battles, and there's actually a fair bit of challenge because you still don't have really large armies, you still don't have a lot of stat boosts. But then as you start expanding, and when you get into the mid game, the game gets really frigging boring, because, well, that is when you're already starting to snowball. Yeah, you need to be careful here, you need to be careful there, there's a cool battle here, there's a cool battle there, but for the most part, it's just you going around with 1 or 2 full stacks and kind of capturing everything around. And I think that this is a really big fault of Total War that they have to fix. If you will just open up certain options as time goes along, if you allow the player to play tall as well, because Total War doesn't do that very well, right? When the enemy just snowballs, it's done. You cannot really play tall. And I wish they would kind of work on that as well through policies. I wish you could select policies in each city. They haven't talked about that. Maybe there will be this, but yeah, that's my main problem right now. It's that everything's a stat change, a stat boost, and I just don't like that, guys. I just don't. But what I'm seeing from the game, I think it's going to be a fun game. I think it's going to be way better than, for example, Warhammer. I think it's going to be way better than Troy. I think, it's looking kind of on the Three Kingdoms level, Three Kingdoms was a good game. I liked Three Kingdoms. It's not really my favorite Total War game, but I liked it. And it was kind of fun. And I think this one is going to be, kind of fun. I don't think I'm gonna buy it. There's still a lot of problems. Like, there's already 3 or 4 DLCs scheduled. There's already cosmetic DLCs scheduled for this, and I think that's kind of ridiculous, guys. Seriously, your game isn't out yet, and you're already planning DLCs. I mean, I guess you have to plan in advance, but this is ridiculous. And at this point, they're just milking the fan base, man. Yeah, I have nothing else to say. I am, you know what, kind of pleasantly surprised, kind of not. So, guys, I'll talk to you later. Have a nice one, and stay wonderful. I'll see you next time. Peace, all that. So, goodbye.